Today we're going to talk about how to nourish your soul. Soul nourishment is so critical for living an empowered and fulfilling life, and today I'm going to show you how. Welcome, I'm Kim Marie, and this channel is all about supporting women to become their most empowered self so they can live their most fulfilling life. Doesn't the term soul nourishment sound good and yummy and wonderful? But why is that? Why does it resonate so much with us? It's like on some level we know it's important, but we don't really know why, and we often don't really know how to do it. Well, today we're going to define soul nourishment. We're going to talk about why it resonates so much for us. I'm going to offer you some tips and techniques as to how to do it, including some awesome resources that you'll find in the description. And I'm going to offer you some specific challenges that you can get started with today for your soul nourishment. So what exactly is soul nourishment? Well, first of all, we need to take a look at what nourishment really is. It has origins that mean to promote the growth of, to bring forth. So often people think of food as a form of nourishment, and it is a form of nourishment. So soul nourishment is really about soul food, but not necessarily soul food in terms of, comfort foods or that kind of thing, but literally like what feeds our soul, what nourishes, what promotes growth for our soul, for our being, for our evolutionary essence. The earliest feminine root of the word nourish comes from one who nurses. It's this idea of the flow of milk. So soul nourishment, the soul is often associated with the feminine as well, spirit being associated with masculine. And this idea of nourishing the soul is also very much about cultivating the feminine flow, opening ourselves up to be receptive to all that life has to offer. So why soul nourishment? So the soul is that which animates us. Its origin as a word is often something that is associated with having come from the sea. Now, early lore often talks about the earliest goddesses, the earliest feminine elements as being born of the sea. So again, here we have this incredibly beautiful feminine concept of soul nourishment. It's what opens us up to life's experiences. So this idea of giving to our soul through nourishment what is needed to grow and expand and open ourselves so that we can be in the full flow of life, receiving all that it has to offer. That's really what we're talking about here when we say, how to nourish your soul, or what is soul nourishment first and foremost. So why does soul nourishment resonate so much with us? This is a really curious question, right? Okay, so our souls are, as I mentioned, designed to evolve and to grow and to expand. But there's something more. It's also that we're almost designed to know when we're off. And right now in life, we're very far off. We often hear so much about anxiety and depression skyrocketing and all of this discontent and dissatisfaction and frustration and this longing for deeper meaning and sense of purpose. We feel it. We know. We have this sense when our soul is not well. And I call it soul sickness, and I've done other videos about that, so be sure to check those out. But this idea that the soul often feels ill or off, and something within us just knows. So when we hear this word soul nourishment, it's like, oh yes, we just know. Something in us knows this is what we need. We may not even know what exactly we need or how to do it. That's what we're talking about today. But something in us resonates so deeply. So if when I say, or maybe you were attracted to this video because I'm talking about soul nourishment here, if that is part of it, if you see those words and you go, oh yes, that's what I need, if you feel this sigh of relief, then pay attention to that. Pay attention to the fact that something within you knows that something's off, something's not aligned with where you're meant to be. And it might be is subtle. You know, it might be that you're just overworking yourself and you're exhausted, but you're doing exactly what you are meant to be. You just have to balance it with some good rest and rejuvenation and nature time or something like that. But it might be that you really are like in the wrong relationships or in the wrong job or in different situations. Like, this is important to ask yourself. Why do we resonate with this term soul nourishment so much? What is it that something within you knows is off? And ask yourself those questions. Take some time to really think about that, to explore that, to dive deeper into that. Another reason we resonate with this term soul nourishment is that the soul is feminine, as I mentioned. So is the origin of the word nourish. So here we have this incredible feminine term, and we know, we've seen in many different places, the feminine is rising up. The feminine has been suppressed, oppressed, ignored, hidden, subdued, all of these things for millennia. But it's rising up and it can't be stopped. And we're seeing counterforces trying to stop that in various ways, which I won't get into in this video. But the idea is that something within us knows that soul nourishment is needed. And there's a force rising in the world that is saying, yes, yes, pay attention to your soul. Pay attention to what you need. Pay attention to that feminine essence and aspect of your being. It doesn't mean to ignore or do so at the expense of the masculine aspect and other aspects of our being. It just means to pay more attention to it after having been in this patriarchal dominance culture for so long that has ignored and dismissed the feminine, right? We're longing for wisdom. That is what is rising up with the feminine. Action without wisdom, well, we know what action without wisdom has done. We can look around in the world and see so much going on that has been largely a result of a complete lack of wisdom. That is rising up to correct this incredible imbalance. So when we hear the term soul nourishment, we know there's something there. Okay, so how do we do this? How to nourish your soul? Some tips and techniques for you, okay? First of all, we want to really be noticing what's going on around us, what's triggering us, what are we taking in? What are we bringing into our lives? What are we opening ourselves to that maybe we shouldn't be? Or what are we closing ourselves to that we shouldn't be, right? How can we be noticing what we're taking in? Because we want to know, is it nourishing? Is where we're living nourishing our soul? Is what we're eating nourishing our soul? Is what we're watching and reading and saying nourishing our soul? Is what we're hearing through our music or our, television shows or movies or whatever, is that nourishing our soul, right? Is what we're doing, the activities that we're doing, are they nourishing our soul? We want to really look at what we're taking in and evaluate that with the question of, is this soul nourishing? A lot of times we don't even ask the question. We just go do whatever it is, right? Want to have a drink after work? Sure, no problem. Let's go have a drink after work, right? Is that really what will nourish your soul? Maybe your soul is saying, you know what? I need to go walk in the forest after work, or I need to go sit in a salt bath after work, or I need to go out and have a really nourishing meal that's going to revivify me after a long day, right? We need to pay attention and ask these questions. Another way we can do this soul work is to honor all aspects of our being. This is what I particularly love. Everything I do, I really try to take in the holistic approach, like the whole of our being. How are we showing up? What are we doing? Why are we doing it? What domains of life is it applying to? And bring all of us on board, including the parts we've dismissed, which means also that another way to do soul work or to nourish the soul is to do the deep soul work. We have to be willing to go in and look at those shadow parts that we've tried to ignore. And, I have another video on soul work that you can take a look at as well. But it's really this willingness to do a deep dive, to go into the depths of our being and bring along all aspects of ourselves, even the parts of ourselves that we thought were not worthy, that we were dismissing, that we were ignoring, because only in taking this holistic approach where we look at the whole of our being, that is what the feminine does. That's what the feminine wants, is to bring everything on board, to honor all aspects, right? To be inclusive, to be honoring this connectivity that we have, right? To be holistic. We can also begin to look at what are we resisting and what do we need to set boundaries around. That's another way to practice soul nourishment. There are things that we resist and there might be a reason for that. And so maybe there's some boundaries we have to set around things so that we don't limit ourselves, but we set boundaries around how we do those things, right? Or there are things coming in that are anything but nourishing to our soul, and they're draining us and they're causing us to feel disconnected and maybe even want to run and hide a bit. But we need to take a look at, all right, so what can we do instead to set some boundaries, not let those draining things in, but open ourselves to other possibilities. We want to look at these things as a way to do this work and to have greater soul nourishment. So I want to offer you some challenges or practices that you can do to start nourishing your soul today. First of all, questions. That is one of the biggest things. I challenge you to ask questions. And I mean, just ask questions. We're not trying to find answers here. The soul actually thrives in uncertainty, in living in the questions, in opening to possibilities. So I often encourage people to keep a questioning journal. Like, just write down the questions, and don't focus on questions like, why is this happening to me? But I love to look at it as like, I wonder what's going on here, or I wonder how this could be possible, or I wonder what life would look like if this were going on, or what if I did this, then what could happen? What happens when we live in these questions is we start to open ourselves to new possibilities, and we open ourselves to that nourishment that the universe is longing to give us for soul nourishment, okay? So that's one piece, is questions. Live in the questions. What do you want? What do you not want, right? What are you longing for? What do you want to stay away from? What's working well for you? What's not working so well? These are amazing questions to live in. And in those cases, you can kind of begin to answer those questions or contemplate some of those questions. But even just posing the questions begins to provide you with answers through that flow of incredible unbounded nourishment that we have available to us. The other piece that I love for anything to do with soul work, soul nourishment, soul connection is journaling. And you'll find a link to my Journaling as a Path to Come Home guide in the description. If you haven't already downloaded it, be sure to do so, because it is a powerful tool with lots of guidance on different tips and different ways of journaling that really can connect you to your soul. It's such a powerful tool. So I challenge you to do that. Try some of those tips, try some of those things, and see what works for you, what resonates for you, what you like, and what nourishes your soul. Now, another way that I challenge you to nourish your soul is with nature. Nature is such a potent way for us to nourish our soul, because again, there's so much of the feminine existing in this expressive, open flow of nature that we can nourish our soul by connecting with that, by slowing down long enough to reconnect with the laws of nature, with the way things work. So much of our life in the material, patriarchal dominance culture disconnects us from those laws of nature. We try to dominate nature. We try to control nature. We try to take things away from nature and think that we are superior to nature, when in fact we are nature. So all of those ways in which we harm nature or we try to control it are ways in which we are harming ourselves and controlling a soul that wants to be free. So just spending time and connecting with nature is such a powerful tool. And for that, I encourage you to watch my video, How to Connect with Nature, a Love Story. You might take a walk in the forest. You might connect with the elementals, like in some way connect with water by sitting near a stream, or connect with fire by sitting by, a campfire or wood stove or something like that. Just breathe in the air and appreciate it, and walk barefoot on the soil, on the earth, and really feel into what is being provided for you with these various elements. Notice all of the aspects of nature and all of the support that is there. And consider also a nature retreat, which I also have information for in the description. You will see a link to my women's retreat that I do each year. So be sure to check that out, because that might be of interest for your future. And allow yourself to be immersed in nature so that you can feel nature's nourishment forever available to you for your soul. So there are lots and lots of ways to nourish your soul. I've given you a number of tips. I challenge you to take at least one of them up and try them out. Share in the comments what you find, what you discover, what sounds good to you, what you're going to take up. Make the commitment. Let's witness each other in committing to that and actually go for it. Good luck, and may your soul be nourished.